Hello, welcome to the Ask a Christian podcast. I'm your host, Nate. So today we're going to do things a little bit different. I have a special guest we're going to be talking to. Graphic person, artist, illustrator. I have friends in the art world who are very excited about this. They know exactly what all those different things mean. I just know they make things that I can't make. So I always wish I had the ability to do something called art, building websites and all this. I know enough to get myself into trouble. You've heard my complaints before if you've been listening. So not to make it about that, but the one talent I really wish I had was to make graphics and to make some kind of art, because finding other people that can kind of capture what's in your head when you need something, it's very difficult. I mean, there's no end of talent, but apparently me trying to explain the goblins in my head gets lost in translation. So anyways, we have one of these people who are great at displaying whatever's in their head. So anyway, in the meantime, if you would please, whatever platform you're on, like, share, subscribe, check out the Ask a Christian podcast.com. We have the website back now, askachristianpodcast.com. Scroll down, you can find our links on Clubhouse to join us live. You can find us on Discord to keep the chat going. So if you have faith questions, send them in, question, comment, hate mail, whatever. I'll just send hate mail to Chris, that's fine. Anyway, in the meantime, special guest, Anthony Freda. How are you doing today?
Great, Nate. Great to be here.
So if I miss any gaps, I'm sure I will. You have a long career, and it's like focuses on your art. So I guess maybe that's how you got into all these industries. But then it seems you turn commentator, activist, host, books, all these other things. So did the chicken or egg come first? I imagine it went something like you wanted to be an artist. You were interested in images and pictures. So you began in graphics and then spilled out from there?
Yeah, exactly. You got to go with your strengths in life, and it's something I had some natural talent, not a genius or anything like some guys I know, but so my strength was always, I realized I wasn't, a virtuoso at draftsmanship or painting. And I had this sort of affinity towards making political, social commentary. And as a young child, I did it. I was drawing political cartoons at 12 years old. At that time, it was the Arab oil embargo, 1974, and I was making images about it.
And how old were you then?
I was 12. I started.
All right.
So I've been doing this a long time, and I just loved. I remember I was inspired by the book Where the Wild Things Are. As a 5-year-old, read that book, and I looked at the pictures, and I said, "My God, you can make a living doing this, like just making these mysterious, interesting, beautiful images." And it was just something I just never looked back, and been doing it ever since.
And so what's a brief history of like the whole gambit? So you got your start there. Did you go to art school, or did you how far did you pursue that? And I guess higher education, did you?
Yeah, I went to Pratt in Brooklyn. It's a great art school. And like I said, I was, you come into art school, you're like, these kids from all over the country come in, and most of them are like the best artists in their high school, so I would guess I was considered that. And then you come into a school where everybody was the best, artists in their school. And it's pretty humbling because you see where you stand in the hierarchy. And I realized, like I said, I was surrounded by geniuses, and I said, yeah, I can't compete with them. So my strength was my conceptual work, and I leaned into that, and had a great education at Pratt. And I got out, and I realized I was totally inadequate to the task of making a living as an artist. As you cross that threshold from academia to the professional world, it's pretty daunting as an artist to make a living making pictures. So I got into advertising because I needed a job and to pay the rent, and I found a way where I could make pictures, in the corporate environment and be well compensated. So I was a young man, and I was pretty hungry, and I had a great work ethic, and I got into this world of advertising, and I started to really succeed, working for Fortune 500 companies and making a lot of money. And I bought a condo in New York and started my own business doing advertising art. And it was everything was going great, Nate. And then I worked on this campaign. You're probably too young to remember what it was. A Joe Camel campaign.
I do remember Joe Camel, maybe not the campaign.
Yeah, so it was in the 80s and 90s, and we were just cranking out. There were these cartoons of like this cartoon camel, and he's playing pool, and there's the hot cartoon camel chick behind him, And we're drawing these silly, corny cartoons, and they're paying us a lot of money. And I thought, man, this is just a great life. I'm making a ton of dough, and I'm drawing cartoon camels, and I was working for a lot of other companies too, but that was one of the campaigns. And then lo and behold, the FTC determines that our campaign is illegal because they said we were marketing cigarettes to children by using cartoon imagery. So I had this sort of moral crisis, this come to Jesus moment where I said, my God, I didn't become an artist to sell cigarettes to kids, And I said, and I just saw how smarmy the advertising industry was, and how it was about mass psychological manipulation to sell you stuff you either didn't want or didn't need, or that was bad for you, like alcohol and tobacco. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to work for the good guys. I was pretty naive at the time, Nate. I'm going to work for the New York Times, and I'm going to work for Time Magazine and the New Yorker. I started working for all of them. And I became very successful as an editorial illustrator. And then, again, I think I'm doing what I wanted to do. And I thought at that time, like the mainstream legacy media was sort of there to tell us the truth. If the corporations or the government was lying to us, they were the fourth ward. And once I got in there and I saw how the sausages were made, it was a very different story. And I became disillusioned again, like I did in advertising. So it's all part of my awakening towards understanding how the world really works. And in my naivete, I thought the New York Times was the good guys. So I'm working for the op-ed page of the New York Times, which is kind of where the elite speak to each other and tell each other what they're going to do. And they told me when I was working there that every word we have printed here has to be vetted by the State Department. So I thought, I was curious because I thought, so you're just working for the State Department. You're a mouthpiece for them, basically. So I'm working on this piece that was written by Condoleezza Rice. She was Secretary of State. And it was, promoting all the lies that we know now took us to the Iraq War. So again, I had a moment of questioning my life choices where I realized, wow, I went from selling cigarettes to kids to selling war. Somehow it's even worse. And I found myself in this moral crisis again, where I don't want to work. These are the bad guys. Like I'm working for the bad guys again. So at that time, it was a sort of seminal time for alternative media. It was just starting in the early 2000s with websites like Infowars and magazines like Trends Journal. So I started working for both of those guys. And then I started working for activists in the health freedom movement and in the just all these different filmmakers and authors and journalists and researchers in all these arenas that were sort of challenging the mainstream narratives on everything from vaccines to geoengineering to everything. I mean, all the stuff that you know all about that runs counter to the prevailing mainstream narratives and the things that everybody just takes as gospel.
And so you're just doing art at this time, right? You haven't really gotten to commentary, or you're still doing art for these organizations at this point?
I started as an illustrator, making memes and making illustrations for Infowars, and then I started. They asked me on the show, so then I started, giving my 2 cents with my words to accompany my images. And I started writing for Infowars, and I just realized that I could say a lot. Picture's worth 1,000 words, but sometimes you need more than that. You need actual words, So that was a long time ago, but I've been doing it ever since. And now I found a place where I could sleep at night. And, it's like you can't serve God and mammon. So I was at Matthew 6:24. I I took a hit in pay, but like I said, I could sleep well at night, and my conscience was clear, Nate. And I've been working for who I think are the good guys ever since. And another part of my conversion was 9/11, because I saw that happen. I lived downtown Manhattan when that happened, and again, that was a dark night of the soul for me. So I've had these sort of revelations working in these different arenas of the online landscape and the media landscape. And I don't know if you want to hear my 9/11 story, but
well, I do, but let's. I don't want to skip over you going from selling cigarettes to kid, getting approved by the State Department, to Infowars. That's a pretty big shift. So I'm familiar with Gerald Celente and the Trends Forecaster and Infowars, but going from New York, Manhattan, working for those companies, did you just overnight? Were you familiar with like Infowars and that whole ethos, or did you just switch on a dime, or how did you go from that?
This is where 9/11 comes in, so it's a good segue. So I was working mainstream media, the Village Voice, which is supposed to be this, counter to the mainstream, but it really isn't. It has sort of a leftist, slant to it. But so one of the assignments I got was, at that time, it was when these films were coming out, like Loose Change, and films questioning the official 9/11 story. And there was a bunch of these documentaries that came out, and they wanted to do an article where they were basically talking about all these documentaries and saying these people are kind of crazy, but they liked the fact that they were anti-Bush and anti-Cheney, anti-neocon. So it was this weird sort of political place they were in. And I got this assignment, and I didn't know anything about these guys at the time. But, as my research of the assignment, they asked me to watch these films. So I watched these films going in thinking, I totally bought the official story. Osama bin Laden, they immediately identified him as the culprit, and they found the passports somehow, of the hijackers. In these buildings where there was nothing left except
metal melts, but passports are forever.
Yeah, metal melted, and I waded through the gray ash. It was like snow from hell. I mean, ankle deep, and I smelled the acrid burning of flesh, and I saw people die. I saw thousands of people die that day. And so when I watched these films, I took it personally. I was like, wow, these people are not crazy. These people have very valid questions. These were scientists and physicists and researchers and architects and engineers and historians, and intelligence, former intelligence people. They knew what they were talking about. And they said that the official story stinks. Something's rotten here. And they punched these giant holes in the story. And it just, again, I had this another dark night of the soul. Like, wow, if they could lie about that, they could lie about anything. And I changed on that day. And then the piece that I did wound up, right now, it's in the permanent collection of the 9/11 Museum. To their credit, they put it in there. I think it's one of the only pieces that challenged the official narrative. But yeah, that day moved me into this space where I am now.
Yeah, I was browsing your website. Is that piece? Is there a picture or anything of it on your website, or is that just at the site of 9/11?
It should be there. Questions. It's a man looking at. You see the back of his head, and he's looking at all these different theories about 9/11. So it's sort of a self-portrait of my awakening to the real world. I think it might be on there under illustrations, but anyway, the best place to go for my work is my Instagram page. There's a link on my website. That's everything. There it is. So you can see the top of his head there.
Oh, okay, right there with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. No, not that one. That's the one.
Other one.
But yeah, so that was part of my journey, and it's interesting how these professional projects and experiences inform my personal life and my journey towards where I am now.
That and then so because of that, and how that is interesting. So how is yours alone, kind of by itself, or in the sea of many of the museum? Does it have its own kind of different place, or is it part of the part of a larger collection?
It's part of it's a rotating collection. They have so many pieces that they rotate the collection that as they display it. So I really don't know what they do with it. It might be in a urinal for all I know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they did with it. But we went in when I submitted the piece to the museum. The curators were very gracious. We had an interview and we filmed it. And then the Newsweek did a story about it where the curators of the museum made sure to say, we're accepting this piece, but we don't agree with anything Freda says, and we don't agree with these conspiracy theories. And then they wanted us to delete the little mini documentary we made off of YouTube, and they threatened us, and we just said we're not deleting it. So you saw us there with a camera, and we filmed it, and sorry, so it's still there.
And then so that kind of led to you saying you were making memes and stuff, and Infowars contacted you and picked you up, and you became more of a permanent fixture there with their art. And then what that went from there?
Yep, that story got some press, so I think it kind of raised awareness about my work and what I'm doing. And
you worked for them for 10 years, right?
Yeah, 10 years I worked, and I was on the show a bunch of times. Went down to Austin and met Alex. Great guy, I think. And he is what he appears to be. I think he's a real Christian and a real reformer, and I think he's fighting the good fight.
So when did you stop working there? Has it been a while, or?
It was around COVID, I guess, where everything changed, and I had some personal issues, and I just, the amount of attacks that they were getting, the staff and Alex, and just the relentless assault of attacks. Like, I didn't want to expose my family to that, or myself, frankly, because people don't know just how brutal these people are. I mean, they're just vicious, and they will try to destroy you, destroy your family. I think they killed Jamie White. They sued Alex for $1 billion. I mean, they're just relentless. They hate us. They hate the truth, and they want to destroy us. And it's a war. It's a spiritual battle we're in, and you need to be strong to fight it, because you need the strength of a Trump or Alex Jones. And sometimes I'm strong, and sometimes I have moments where I pray for strength. And I like the saying, when you pray for strength, God gives you something that requires strength.
Yeah, right. What are they saying? Like, don't pray for patience, or you're going to be tested, or don't pray for this, or you're going to get it. And it's like the apostles I was just reading in Acts, right? Like, right after Jesus ascends, they start preaching the gospel. People start getting repenting, getting baptized, following the way at this time, following Jesus. They get hauled in, beaten, thrown in prison, and the next thing they do is go pray for boldness. So it's kind of this give and take, and we're all human. Peter denied Christ, but it's like, whenever you pray for boldness, they got boldness, and you got to take everything that comes with that. So one thing we often get to, because what I do is primarily supposed to be answering questions about the Bible, which is nothing special. It's just because people have all these questions about the Bible, but they don't read the Bible. I'm like, guys, just read the Bible. All the answers are right there. Like, my job is basically telling people what the Bible already says. So then people will get kind of political, and people will say, don't mix religion and politics. And I'm like, well, I'm of that mind too, because sometimes you'll see people like kind of co-opting religion, and they don't really believe it. They're kind of on the outside, and they're like, God, family, country. And then it's just all kind of pulling God into politics for a political message. But then some of that is necessary from the right way. It's like, well, look, if you're truly putting God first, then it's going to get in political issues like abortion, things like that. So it's going to spill into the political lane, but that's mostly because government gets in the lane of God. So it's like, you keep your government out of the lane of religion and we won't have a problem. But when you start coming into our lane, the Jesus lane, we'll expect some pushback. So there has to be some kind of crossover. And I think one thing, like you said, the people are evil, man. And more people, I think, like the Joe Rogans, Russell Brands, these people are kind of cozying up to Christ, or even like Jordan Peterson. I don't think he's there yet, but he's getting a lot more cozy because they may not have been pulled to Christ because they believe the traditional message at first, but them seeing the amount of absolute evil and people that believe, it seems like you read the writings of different people, different groups throughout history, the people at the top echelon of people that govern the world, whatever, governments, all this, they believe in the devil, and it's almost like they know there's a devil, and they think they've like done so much against this Christian God that read their writings, they very much believe in him, so their idea, it seems like, is they've done too much that they can never be forgiven. Of course they can, but in their own minds they think this, so they think it's better to rule in hell than be a servant in heaven. But that's like a spoiler, because no one's ruling in hell. Everyone's getting punished there. So it's like, if they would ever snap out of their evil, see the light, and only God can know. But it's like, because the Joe Rogans and people like that see how evil these people are, and they're like, they're not just bad or greedy, they are evil. So it's like, if they're that evil and they clearly believe in the devil, there has to be a God. So, people come to Christ for different reasons, and we'll hear about yours in a minute. But it's like, I think that's good. So, whenever you see, like I followed the trial of Alex and the HBO documentary and the special, and it's like, you just hear these people talk. It's like, good Lord, man. And the things they say, there's no logic. It's incoherent. They're like, we want him off air because we want him off air. And it's like, that's your evidence? Sounds good. He's off air. I mean, that's what they're trying. So that's the kind of the point. So you can't separate religion and politics, and the more this goes on, the more you see it's not a separate issue. It's not about good and bad, left and right, conservative, Democrat. It is about the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. That's just where it is. So a lot of these atheists, still kind of in the just run-of-the-mill, average, everyday atheist, they're like telling themselves atheist arguments from 80 years ago, while the I guess kind of big players or people with their eyes open who are waking up, they're like, look, the top people over here are evil as heck, and the people over here that they're persecuting are professing God and Christianity and look like they're trying to follow him. So we got to pick a side. It's not one of these sides in the middle that say, I don't know, I'm an agnostic atheist. Those people are getting left in the dust. So it's like Jesus said, be hot or cold. Don't be lukewarm. So, you see that all the time.
Yeah, you're neither hot nor cold, so I spit you out of my mouth. And no, listen, I mean, Jesus was the model, right? When like you said before, when the temporal plane interjects itself into the spiritual plane, like it's incumbent upon us as Christians to fight back. Like when Jesus took a whip to the money changers, because he's giving us the model. Like when people are doing evil things, in a sacred space, you got to get your whip. And that's the model. But this is a spiritual attack. You was talking about Jordan Peterson before. He almost died this summer. And his wife said she thinks it was a spiritual attack, and he was in critical state in the ICU. And
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, he's extremely sick right now. And I knew something was up when Charlie Kirk. I mean, they tried to kill the guy, and literally, and in front of his children. I mean, what's more evil than that? So, and then when the Charlie Kirk thing happened, there was no response from Jordan Peterson. I thought that was odd. And it turns out, I looked into it, he was extremely ill, to where he almost died. And he's still convalescing. He's still not doing any public appearances or even tweeting anything. Doesn't have the strength for it. Wow. So, yeah.
So they said it was just like an illness, just some kind of illness. He didn't get in a car wreck or anything. It was an
no,
illness.
They don't. It's one of those mysterious things, like they maybe it was mold exposure or something. But I mean, he deathly ill, like he almost died. So we are under spiritual attack, and it's like that idea that when you're favored by God, you're also favored by the devil. So people who are in this or have a calling, the devil takes note, and they have a special amount of attention put on them by the demons to pervert them and to tempt them and to destroy them. I've seen it over and over again in my life. So you got to be strong.
And
to fight demons.
yeah, and they say, last thing about Infowars, and then we can move on to the other stuff. So they say a lot because, again, this is a recurring thing. My podcast, I try not to censor people. I mean, if they're like, cussing and, stuff like that, they got to go. But I mean, whatever opinion, whatever they want to say, I don't care. Just say it like a normal human. So there's a lot of times, I'll share articles from all kinds of sources, including Infowars, all these other places, and some people will try to discount it right away. They're like, oh, don't you know, and Sandy Hook, and da-da-da. I'm like, look, man, forget all of that. First of all, if a source is true, or like a medical journal or something from Peter McCullough or something that is not, the mainstream sources are like, oh, he's not part of our coalition. He's not part of our consensus. I'm like, the reason he's not part of your consensus is because you kicked him out so you can have a consensus. That's how you get a consensus. Everyone that doesn't agree, you kick him out. Then you have a consensus. I can do that too. So I'm like, look, first of all, the source does not matter. As long as whatever headline, whatever report is true and it's citing the sources where you can go verify it yourself, it doesn't matter if the devil tells you what time it is. If you can verify it by like a clock somewhere and it's the right time, well, the devil just told you the right time. I mean, he's the father of lies, so that may not be the best example, but the point is, if someone tells you something, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. If it's true, it's true. So if they cite the sources and you can verify it, it's true. And you can tell a lot about the character of someone. I mean, all sides can be bad. Everyone can be bad, but especially in this climate, you can really tell where people are digging into one side or another and what their stance on things is. You can kind of judge the character of someone by how, who is attacking them. So when you have all the supervillains of planet Earth attacking Alex, his entire crew, his entire family, the swatting, the raids, all this other stuff, trying to shut him down over stuff said. Trump, Flynn, I just saw a thing with Flynn, like, Flynn got drugged through the ringer. So all these people, it's like, well, even if you don't know a whole lot about them, you know plenty about these people. Like, this whole conglomeration of hell is coming against them. It's like, you don't have to necessarily know they're pure as the driven snow to know these people who hate them are pretty darn wicked. And then you start learning more about them, and it's like, oh, well, look, they may not be perfect. They're flawed. They're human. They profess Christ. They admit, we're all sinners, but by the grace of God, we will stand. The Lord's able to make us stand. And so some people may be rough around the edges and, say some wonky things, but it's like, well, look, are they evil? Is their heart malevolent? Do they have bad intent? It's like, no, that seems to be the people attacking those people. So I think that gives you great insight.
Absolutely. You judge a man by his enemies. And look at if Alex is a bad guy, why are they doing everything they can to destroy him for the last 20 years? It's like, it's, you judge a man by his enemies, and the demons hate him. And the other thing is, these people who are, like you mentioned, Peter McCullough, and I worked for RFK, and the people who are demonized in the mainstream media, and I've worked on both sides. I worked for the drug companies in advertising. I work for the mainstream media, and I see like the people like Alex, Peter McCullough, RFK, like they're trying to tell the truth, right? They're not like the mainstream media, as we know, countless examples. They are purposely, by design, lying to you to hurt you. They want to sell you things that will kill you and your children. And they do it with impunity. People like Alex are trying to counter those, authoritarian narratives that are 99% of the time based on lies and misinformation and purposeful disinformation. So you have on one hand, people knowingly, purposely, we can prove thousands of countless examples, who are lying to us. And then they get the highest ratings of trust from, the agencies that give trust ratings. And then the people who are trying to tell the truth are considered, unreliable sources. So, and that happens over and over again. And that's the world. That's the upside down world, right? That's the devil's inversion, where truth and lies are inverted, where good and evil and darkness and light. So we're in this sort of this law of reversal is informing everything that is happening in our society as it falls into darkness, and that's where we're at. And that's why the battle's spiritual, because it comes to truth versus lies, light versus darkness, goodness versus evil, and it's on those simple, basic terms that the fight has to be fought.
And kind of a Christian principle, you'll know a tree by its fruits. So just think about this. I mean, pretty much the only way someone can detract from this is claim someone is completely lying, and then when they don't have evidence, basically you can't counteract what I'm about to say. You know a tree by its fruits. If you're trying to take, Americans' tax-paying dollars and give it to everyone who's not American, that's hurting America. If you're trying to, and all this is coming out like day by day. It's like people are putting out stuff in Congress. If you're trying to kill 300 poor ostriches in Canada because they had antibodies naturally from the bird flu, and you decide to kill them for no good reason, you'd rather put, plastic nanoparticles and make your vaccines out of that. That's not good for people. So it's like you see these bad fruits of all these people. How can you think they're the good guys? Whoever they is. This goes internationally from different countries, different regions, versus people like RFK that's like, hey, let's get toxic oil-based dyes out of our food. Can we do that? How is that bad? Can we please get mercury out of vaccines? Like, hey, we've done studies. There may be something like, helping people with polio or something like this that may be good, but all these other things, they're provably, demonstrably bad. How is he a bad guy? Or, can we please stop raping babies? How is that bad? Can we please stop sex trafficking 350 kids across the border? How is that bad? So it's like if there's anything to this, you can judge a tree by its fruits. People saying all these things that line up with liberty, truth, justice, the well-being of society, these are not bad points. And to say they are and criticize these people, man, I mean, it's so obvious that I think those who are going to wake up are already pretty much woken up. There may be some people that trickle in, but I think at this point, a lot of people's minds are just made up because the evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah, we're reaching critical mass, thank God. But I worked for RFK for a year, and he prayed for, I think, 20 years every day that he'd be in the position that he's in now. And the odds of it happening where he became aligned with Trump is just astronomical. Like, this was divine providence, because how the hell did that happen? This guy was a Democrat. They all loved him, and now they all hate him. It's the same guy. He's doing the same things he did his whole life. He's trying. He wants to end corruption, end this unholy alliance between the pharmaceutical industry and the government regulators. He wants safer food, safer drugs for you and your children. That's all he wants. I know for a fact. And how that's evil, I'll never understand. But the other thing is, like, the people who malign him in the media and lie and write thousands of untrue stories about him, they're discredited liars. We know. I can give you countless examples of where they lied to about people and smeared people. And the intelligence community is feeding them stories. I know for a fact, because I saw it at the New York Times. So you're trusting the bad guys that we know for a fact are lying to you. Why do you keep trusting them? Why do you turn on CNN? Why do you turn on MSNBC? We know they're liars. No doubt about it. Is Alex or somebody like that perfect? No, but he's trying to get to the truth. They're not trying to get to the truth. They're trying to deceive you. They're the great deceivers. So it's very frustrating, but the fight is eternal, right? The animating contest of liberty never ends, and evil exists to give us a purpose, to fight it. And that's what I'm doing with my work, and I'm leaning further into the spiritual battle as much as my body can withstand.
Exactly. It's like you need to fact check the fact checkers, and then you find out, like you mentioned, the trust advisory scores, the ones who are the most fraudulent are the ones that get the highest scores. And then you find out it's like, O'Keefe will do a video or something, get people bragging. They're like, and you find out, like, one of the people of the places that's supposed to have a good trust score, who shouldn't. The reason they got that is someone's nephew intermarried with someone else who works for the fact check advisory. So it's all this big incestuous web. But yeah, it's like the Bible says, trials produce test you and burn off all the bad stuff and basically produce the genuineness of your faith. If you're not being, people will say, I think you even said it earlier, if you're not being tested, you're not doing something right. So if you're not having that pressure to test the genuineness of your faith, and then that leads into people like, well, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people and blah blah blah, and that's a whole other thing we can talk forever about. And it's like the answer, you can go really deep, but on the surface it's very easy. It's like, look, You know there's a God. You know God. Like, I'm just claiming that. Like, they're like, Romans 1, I don't know there's a God. I believe when people say they don't know there's a God, it's because if they would scrape off enough soot and layers of their soul, they'd be like, you know what? I always knew there was a God. I was just too blinded to see it. That's my claim. But you can see very quickly that the Bible and God is true. You may not have all the answers, like why this, why that. You may not know the full mind of God, but very quick, it's easy to make that step. Like Team Jesus or Team Devil, it's right there. You just spiritually, you just know it. You can't quite touch it, but you know this is real. There's a side to pick, and then you try to like philosophize your way to give yourself cover. This is people every day I deal with, and you can just kind of see it, like zoomed out view. You can watch what's happening, and up here it's like the easy battle. They know Team Jesus, Team Devil. They know it's real, but then as soon as a light bulb starts to light up, they're like, well, let's go to philosophy, and what about the problem of evil? And it just gives them cover to philosophize over here, so they don't have to address this thing they know is real. So your spiritual awakening, you said 9/11 was one, and then some other, like selling cigarettes to kids, the advertisement. So when was all this a slow roll, or was there one pivotal point, like now through Infowars and all this other stuff? You also said you worked for New York Times and Rolling Stone, and that was one of my questions, because they're very different politically. Like Rolling Stone didn't always used to be that far out there. Now they are. So I assume maybe that was before the Infowars. But when was your big epiphany, or was it a slow roll to a spiritual wake up?
Well, each one, it came in waves, right? It was the Joe Camel thing, a disillusion about advertising, and then working for New York Times, I became disillusioned about mainstream media. And then this thing called COVID came along, and I became disillusioned with everything, because, I mean, the amount of lies and censorship that I experienced was shocking even to me. And I'm, pretty skeptical guy. Like, when I saw that, I mean, I was banned and censored and shadow banned and demonetized and every other thing. And every interview I did was just deleted, saying it violated community standards, even though there was nothing untrue in these videos. And by the way, everything that I was lied about and shamed for and attacked and vilified and demonized, I was right about everything in 2020. And the liars who lied and said everything they said, that the vaccine, prevents transmission and infection, wrong. The vaccine didn't come from the lab, wrong. The every single thing that was, if you get the vaccine or if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to kill people. I mean, that absurd. I don't know how they got people to believe that, but that was a talking point, right? So I challenged everyone along the way in real time, and I paid a dear price for it. And I realized that, wow, this is a whole nother level of the devil, like invading every single aspect of our society, and it's about having us living in fear. Because fear, if we can live in fear, then you're not really living, right? That's the devil's greatest achievement, because fear is a negation of the life force given to us by God. So the ultimate, battle against God is to have us living in fear. And my God, did he succeed? Yeah, I've never seen fear-based mind control used to such a great extent. They tried it with terrorism and 9/11. It only had so much staying power, but that fear of the plague hit something primal in people. And I saw people that I thought were rational, intelligent people become just blabbering idiots. I mean, I lost all my heroes. They were wearing 3 masks, and they're walking down. You walk into a restaurant, and if you don't have your mask on, people scream at you. But then when you sat down and took it off, nobody cared. It's like the COVID knows if you're standing or sitting. Like, and I would point this out, and they'd say I was crazy. Like, oh, I'm crazy? No.
Yeah, everyone knows COVID doesn't mess with you when you eat. That's where it takes a break. As soon as you're done eating, though, that's when it starts again.
Yeah, but if you pointed out the absurdity that you were the crazy person.
Did you see the ones where they had the mask with the little thing that'd squeeze a thing and it would open the mask and they'd feed themselves between the flap? But yeah, we're crazy. I think we're 5 years into 16 days to stop the spread. Good
God. So that really, but then COVID was a big one. I started working with all these people that were challenging, all these different writers and activists and people in the health freedom movement who were challenging these narratives and just being viciously attacked from every. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. So, but I had a personal experience 2 years ago. My fiance and I were laying in bed watching. I don't know if you know the Obama movie, Leave the World Behind.
Oh, is that the one where at the end all the army of Tesla cars
Yeah,
get on the? Okay, yeah, I
yeah,
saw that.
yeah. So it's this kind of fear porn, end of the world apocalyptic scenario. Which I don't. For some reason, Obama's making movies. I don't know why, but actually I do. But it was, I think it was about keeping people in a low level state of fear and to try to somehow blame it on Trump. It was a political messaging in this like woke-a-palooza movie, and we're watching a movie, and it was a nice cold winter night in New York, and we're cozy in bed watching Netflix, which is always a bad idea. But she says my heart is racing, and the movie was very stressful. So I said, well, let's turn this off. This movie's stressing you out. And then she started to wildly convulse like the Tasmanian devil. And I just looked at her, and she had this look of terror that I've never seen, Nate, in my life, like the most extreme expression of terror on a human face. And then she seized up, and foam and blood started coming out of her mouth. And we found out later she almost bit her tongue in half. She was having seizures, and I didn't know what to do. I called 911, and a robot got on the other end and said, your call is very important to you. There are 8 calls ahead of you.
Oh boy.
And then my son was there, and I had him call from another phone. The EMT came. I just held her and prayed. I felt so inadequate, Nate. And I thought she was dying in my arms. And she just seized up tight as a board. And then she was like that for a while. And I wasn't sure if she was breathing. I thought she was dying in my arms. And then all of a sudden, she went from this moment of terror and fear and tightness to everything loosened up, and she started laughing. And she had this incredibly peaceful look on her face, like I've never seen such a peaceful look. It was one extreme to the other. And she was laughing, and she was at peace, and her body was loose. And I thought, was this a joke? Like, what just happened? And then she clenched back up and went back into our world. It was like she was in a place where there was no fear and no pain. And then she came back to our world, which is filled with pain and fear. And I think she went to the other side. I think she was with God and with her family. And I think she was sent back because it wasn't her time. But that night, it turns out she had a brain bleed. And this is a whole other part of the story where I did some research on it. And that movie, people have downloaded hundreds of movies from Netflix, and they all have one audio file and one video file. This movie has one video file and 4 audio files, and one of them is infrasonic. And
Wow.
it may be that is a sonic acoustic weapon designed to trigger things like seizures. And
that's verified? Like that's like no one can dispute that. That's true. It has 4
the fact
audio
that
files to it.
It has 4 audio files. And
wow.
Sonic. Yeah. Now, we can't prove that this, because in the movie there's this sound, this horrible, they call it the noise, where people, their ears bleed and their teeth fall out, and it's never explained in the movie what this sound is, but it could plausibly be, according to the plot, a sonic weapon. So maybe the transmission itself is a beta test for a sonic weapon. Now that's speculation, but the fact that she had a seizure during that movie, and she has no history of seizures, she's never had any health problems, super fit, begs the question. But anyway, that night she survived it. 75% of the people that happened to don't survive it, and thank you God, she's after a long convalescence, she's about 80% back to her old self. But it brought us both closer to God, and it made me realize that I have to work every stroke of my pen has to be a dedication, a devotion to God, a prayer, and channeling that gift that God gave me into the glory of God and into the God within me.
Did she talk about that experience at all? Or what did she say about it?
She doesn't remember any of the things I just told you, because your brain doesn't remember those, doesn't store those memories, I think, for self-protection. But it brought her closer to God too. And we both really leaned into our faith after that, and ever since. That was 2 years ago.
So are you like, what, do you remember that movie, Civil War? Did you happen to suffer through that one?
Yeah, that was another one. That was it was along the same lines.
Yeah, that one is like, what kind of American are you? It's just woke trash. But I guess where's your Christian journey lead you? Are you like a certain denomination or non-denominational?
I was raised Catholic, so that's familiar to me and from my heritage and my upbringing. So I attended a Catholic church. I'm still going to a Catholic church today. So yeah, that would be my denomination.
Are you in New York still, or are you somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm in New York. I'm about 60 miles east of Manhattan. I work in New York City. I teach illustration at FIT.
Is the election kind of changing any of that, or are you sticking through it?
Well, I think this is all part of the spiritual demonic attack on Christendom and the West. I mean, this guy's a jihadi Marxist. I mean, it's shocking, but it's not, because he embodies that unholy alliance between radical Islam and radical leftism in one person.
Like the Red-Green Alliance?
Now the mayor of London and the mayor of New York, two of the most powerful cities in the world, are both jihadi Marxists. And this is real now. This is not like some fringe movement. Like, these people have power now. So we better as Christians really become defenders of the faith. I mean, we have to be like, they're at the gates of Vienna, and unlike Europe did for hundreds of years, where they pushed them back, they're welcoming them in. They're giving them free healthcare, free housing, free food, and they're turning away when they rape their daughters because they're so afraid of being called an Islamophobe. Well, I'm not afraid to be called an Islamophobe, and I get viciously attacked for just stating the proven true tenets of Islam. It's like, how is that? I'm not the one that wants to throw homosexuals off buildings. They are. But they're more angry at me for saying that there's 12 countries that if you're openly gay, the punishment for the crime is death. And they're more angry at me for saying that than they are at the people who are killing people just for being gay.
Well, it's just like in Europe, like the countries where, like, a Islamic migrant will rape a kid, and then when the parents complain and try to file a report, they are the ones that get thrown in jail. It's like, clearly, if you don't see this as a spiritual war.
Yeah, it's an inversion. I mean, that shows the devil is winning at this moment, because that's an inversion of justice. That's an inversion of truth. It's the law of reversal, and they lean hard into that law. Yes.
And I think someone, opinions are divided. Christians think you need to, I don't know what the right answer is. The machine is so big. There's so many spinning wheels that it's like, well, look, you want to do the best you can. Someone will say, well, render unto Caesar. Yeah, well, our Caesar is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So we are supposed to be, on paper, our own Caesars. Well, our Caesar says you can vote, you can hold political office. So if we want to take that biblical principle, then we should get more Christians in office and running for political power to set things hopefully right, back to a common sense, even if not a godly level, at least like set us back to like 30 years ago. Let's just start there and then try to make it more godly. But and then other people are like, well, keep your religion out of our politics. Is anyone telling that for all the Muslim leaders? No one's saying that. They're like, oh, we have a guy of a different religion in power. That's great. That's wonderful. Oh, you Christians got to keep your religion out of it. Again, it's like there's no way to mince words. You can see this is bigger than just politics. This is so spiritual, because things like you said are so inverted, calling evil good and good evil, things like that. And then other people will point out, well, the Christians and the church is growing and thriving more where it's persecuted than where we've been fat and happy. So maybe a healthy dose of persecution would be good for maybe not the well-being of people, but for the light of Jesus and the Church of Jesus Christ to shine through. So it's like the jury's kind of on out. It's like hope for the best, plan for the worst. So you should try to do the most you can to be a light. The city on a hill is not covered. The light shining on a hill, and do the most you can in politics and Christianity, waking up calls, especially in America. But as it seems like persecution and is inevitably going to be becoming more and more pronounced, that may not be bad either, right? Like the devil thought, oh, it's all over when Christ is murdered on the cross, but that's not how the story ends. So maybe, maybe the evil people are thinking, if we can just snuff out these Christians, well, that's not how the story ends.
Well, yeah, we're in a one-sided war, a war against Christendom. I mean, look what they're doing in Nigeria, slaughtering, 100,000 Christians over the last 15 years, and the press ignores it because they can't be called an Islamophobe. So we're fighting a one-sided war, and believe me, they are determined. Thousands of Muslims went to Times Square after Mamdani was elected, and they said, in their own words, we are going to take over this country with ballots, not bullets. They look at the left as useful idiots. I mean, this is unholy alliance. I mean, their ideals are totally anathema to the ideals of the left. And Mamdani, there's a principle in Islam called Taqqiya, which is mean because Allah was a deceiver, Muhammad was a deceiver, so it's okay to deceive in the cause of furthering Islam. So he says in one hand he has his arm around the gay community, saying New York's going to be a sanctuary city for gender reassignment surgeries and all that child mutilation, and so you're going to be getting child mutilations for free now, and not only from the left where they destroy young people's bodies and minds, but from Islam too, where they do things like female genital mutilation. They hold their kids down and give them clitorectomies. I mean, this is evil. This is unholy what's happening, that this merger of these two totally disconnected ideologies. They only have one thing in common. They hate Christendom. They hate Judaism. They hate the West. They hate freedom. They hate freedom of speech. And that's not according to me. That's according to read the Sunnah, read the Hadith, read the Quran. Those are the three basic scriptures that inform Islam, and they're equally important. And they say exactly what I'm saying. I didn't make this stuff up.
You seem really well versed on this. You should come be a guest sometime. Like this sounds like a regular podcast with all these different people. Like we talk to Muslims a lot, and it's difficult to have a conversation because it's like, well, you never know if they're practicing this taqiyya because what are they going to do? They're like, oh no, that's just to save the life of a Muslim. If you're in a persecuted country, then you can lie. It's like, how do I know you're not lying and doing taqiyya right now to say that? And they're like, oh, because we don't do that. I'm like, this is indefensible because anything you say to try to give evidence for why you're not practicing taqiyya, that by definition can be taqiyya. So how about you just let me tell you the gospel, and you can either take it or leave it. I really don't care. Like there's lots of Muslim counter apologists. God bless them. Like there's some Christians who really know their stuff. There's ex-Muslims that come by who are Christians now who I mean, they grew up in this, so they absolutely know Islam, and they go out there and like go do counter apologetics against it. And I'm like, God love them, man, but I'm like, that's not my lane. That's not my bandwidth. It's like, I'm just going to tell you how Jesus is God, and I guess you can just disagree or see the light. Like there's this one Muslim guy, he's an ex-Muslim, and it's a video of exactly what you said. And he's like, gays, nah, they'd kill him. They'd throw him off buildings. He's like, no, we hate gay people. And it would just go through the thing one by one. He's like, no, Christians, Jews, if we let them live, they have to pay the jiza, this tax or whatever. Yeah. Like everything you just said. He's like, and then the reporter's like, well, why on earth are you aligning with the left? And he's like, you don't know? Like he's shocked. He's like, how do you not see this? He's like, it's obvious. He's like, we don't like conservatives. It doesn't just. I think he was talking about America. He's like, it doesn't have to be. It's the conservative mindset. Because they're principled, they're usually godly, they're religious, they know what they believe and why they believe it, and they're standing their ground. We can't compete with that. We can't compete with that because what we want to compete has so many flaws that they'll call out. They'll never let in their group, in their conservative ideology. However, the left, through their like compassion, their weakness, their empathy, they're wanting to integrate everyone. He's like, we just dominate them. So whenever they say about like gay people, and it seems like the most obvious non-aligned alliance. These are two natural enemies, except if you combine communism and Marxism in there, and then you get the gay, the woke, the purple-haired people who just want to love everyone. It's like, yeah, there are natural enemies, but because they're so weak-willed and just ignorant, we're making them our allies until we conquer this group. It's kind of like Parliament, like how they do Parliament. It's why the parliamentary systems in the countries like Europe and this is so bad, because the weakest group could never win. So they have to go form coalitions with other weak groups until all these coalition of weakness become dominant. And that's how the conservative kind of godly ideology gets shoved out and loses. Same thing. So Islam, Marxism, communism, and the woke, they all conglomerate until they wipe out, I guess, us. And then the first thing they're going to do is eradicate the woke. And then it'll be like Iran, I think in like the 70s or 60s, when they were teamed up, the Muslims and communists teamed up, and when they defeated whatever the enemy was at that time, I forget, then all the Muslims killed the communists.
Yeah, well, I forget the term, but so the jihad is, conquest by sword, but they also have an ancient principle of conquest through immigration or demographics, because they're having 5 to 8 kids. There's 3 billion of them, and Christians, unfortunately, a lot of them are having non-replacement amount of kids, or they're aborting their children, or they're turning them into trans people who can never have children because they've destroyed their fertility organs. So they're not doing any of that stuff, but they're also overrepresented in any political environment they get into. So, 5% of the population, they might have 50% of the legislature. And they're doing it right here, Paterson, New Jersey. I mean, they took over that town. There's Sharia police, there's Sharia courts. So it's like, this is not an abstract concept anymore. They're doing it all over Europe, where the native population is being displaced. And it's this moral cowardice, or this, like I say, they're so afraid of being called a name that they're willing to sacrifice their own children, their own country, their own people, their own future, their own life. I mean, it's God Saad calls it suicidal empathy, and that's what it is. Like, they have this misguided empathy for people who hate them and want to kill them and their children and rape their daughters. This is madness. This is evil, and it's incumbent upon us as Christians we better do what you said before. Like, we need more Christians running for office. We need more conservatives who have a spiritual backbone to get involved in politics, because you can't separate it now. They're not separating it. This political Islam is not just a religion, because when they get in power, they impose laws that affect non-Muslims.
Exactly.
Christians don't do that. Christians don't say you have to be Christian or we're going to kill you. They do. So that makes it political. The definition of it is, if I'm not a Muslim and your laws affect me and are forcing me to act in a Muslim way, like, that's not religion anymore. That's politics. So this idea you could separate them is absurd, because you can't, especially when you're dealing with this force of political Islam, which is determined to take over the world. When they say it's a religion of peace, what they mean is that we will have peace when everyone on earth is Muslim, and not until then.
100%. And it's like, and then you said a lot of great stuff. Christians should absolutely run for more political power. The thing is, though, I was talking about this yesterday, like, it seems like the idea of, like, the liberal and the left is their strong people on their side are the ones that gravitate towards wanting to hold power and authority over other people. So the strongest kind of liberal mindset, not strong by normal standards, but in their own group, the weak ones of those just want to, chant and do whatever they do and, throw rocks at ICE, I guess. But the strongest ones in that group are the ones that run for political power, because that's what strength is to them, having authority over other people. Because that in their mind, that's what makes them strong. And it's like, in the conservative mindset, it's like the strongest conservative mindset is someone that's like, just leave me alone. I want to follow God. I want to raise my family. I want to do my job. I want to just have me, my family, my church, my community. That is like strength in kind of the conservative mindset, which means on the conservative side, that's why I think we get so many rhinos and Republicans who talk a big game, but then they don't do anything. That's why we're not seeing any traction, because the liberals have their strongest group in office because they want political power. The strongest conservative doesn't naturally seek power. So we have kind of the weaker conservatives. I mean, there are a few good ones who've stepped up to the call, but that number is far too few, which is why the meme I saw is true that says it's the Democrats' job to lie, cheat, and steal and basically be evil, and it's the Republicans' job to act like they're going to stop them. I'm like, that is so true. So we absolutely need more conservatives to take one for the team and be like, look, my strength is my God, my family, leave me alone, but someone's got to do this. So we need more people of a strong conservative mindset to join the very small minority currently in office and make it more of a majority conservative Christian strength.
Absolutely. And the other part of it is, I mean, you're totally right. But the other part of it is you can't fight a war until you understand your enemy. And that's why this Islamophobia thing is so dangerous, because when you try to explain in their own words and in their own scriptures, like what they're planning on doing and how they're going to do it, and I'll give them credit for one thing, they're determined. I mean, they're on a holy mission. Like if what the Christians of the world were as dedicated as they are, they'd have no chance. But there's so many moral cowards, and we can't even understand our enemy because we're not allowed to explain it. If I say one thing about the truth, just quoting their own people, I mean, we have to take them at their word. The people screaming 2 days ago in Times Square, they're not just saying that.
Oh, I saw those videos. They believe it.
Yeah. They're saying we're going to take over America. This is how we're going to do it, with ballots, not bullets. And they said it very clearly. And to not take them at their word is literally an existential threat right at the door. And you have to at least understand your enemy and understand that they're determined, and they have a very, very powerful ideology that guides them. It's demonic, in my view. It's anti-Christian. It's anti-Western. It's anti-human. It's anti-female. It's anti-gay. It's this demonic darkness that wants to conquer every inch of the planet, and they're not going to stop until they reach that goal of the global caliphate. This is the whole purpose of the religion, is the global caliphate. Not going to stop when, we got like, however many, 50 countries. They're not going to stop at 50 countries. They want every single last person either converted or executed.
And then see, they say, like you said, religion of peace, that'll be peace when everyone's Muslim. No, it won't. Like, look how many different sects, the Sunni, the Shiite, the other subgroups, like, they hate each other.
They kill each other.
Everyone could be Muslim tomorrow. There's not going to be peace.
They say that they worship death, not life. That's the difference between, that's darkness and light, right? That's the difference between Christianity and Islam.
Well, yeah, and two things. One, like, look at, you can judge a tree by its fruits. Look at their fruits. Look at their holy book. And a lot of times, the polemic is, well, look, Christians have too many different kinds of Christians. There's Orthodox, there's Baptists, there's Catholics, there's this. Christians can't even decide what they believe, as if Islam is cohesive. There's plenty of different sects, but look at the book. So how do you know if someone's being a bad Christian? And, I mean, this requires like a rudimentary understanding, because everyone wants to go to the Old Testament and Jews and blame slavery and all this other stuff, not understanding it. I'm like, look, guys, I can explain it to you. Just call a rabbi. We're talking about Christians today. Let's start here. We can talk about slavery in the Old Testament thousands of years ago if you want, and I can walk you through it. But since we're alive right now, how much have you done about sex trafficking and slavery in 2025? None? Okay, great. So let's just talk about our holy book. How do you know if someone's a good Christian? Well, our holy book, the Bible, says, love God, love people, live at peace with people as much as depends on you. Do good to those who do bad to you. Don't repay evil. Don't repay evil with evil, but overcome evil with good. Pray for those who persecute you. Turn the other cheek. That is following the words of Christ. That is being a loving Christian. That's how you know a good Christian, someone that's following their book. How do you know a bad Christian? Someone that's like spiteful, mean, malevolent, has just evil, nefarious intent, because they're not following the words on the page. How do you know if you're a good or bad Muslim? Look at the Quran. That came around 600 years after Christianity, by the way. So, where is it any wonder? The Bible says, even if an angel themselves comes and preaches a different gospel besides what you've heard, let them be anathema, let them be accursed, don't follow it. And then, just like Mormonism, who shows up? An angel. Just like Islam, who shows up? An angel. Like, this is so on the face. How can people not see it? a lot of times it's because it's illegal to read the Bible in these countries because they would see it. But literally, the thing the Bible says don't do and warns against is exactly what happened. So is it any wonder that to be a good Muslim, you need to follow the Quran that talks about, kill the infidel, make them pay the tax if you let them live, melt the skin of the unbeliever with hot irons, all this other stuff, subjugate, dominate, it's okay to lie, it's okay to deceive. It is completely inverted from Christianity. So to say it's some kind of offshoot or it's further revelation, it is a complete inversion. So how do you know if there's a bad Muslim? If they're kind, if they're good, if they just want to be left alone, if they don't want to promote their religion, if they just want to be left alone, that's a bad Muslim because they're not following by their own book. I'm not saying they're a bad human or whatever, whatever, but they're not following the religion. If they're following the religion, they're doing all the stuff in their book that says dominate, don't deal with the unbeliever, dogs are filthy animals, all this other stuff. So a good Muslim is one who follows their book. Their book is a complete inversion of what the Bible calls good. So the fact that people just can't see this stuff, I guess it's our job to tell them and wake people up as much as we can. But another thing is people have had it too good. So people during COVID really woke people up, I think, because people went along and there was a breaking point when everyone started just doing lockdowns that were beyond the pale. Australia started putting people in the little facilities and all this other stuff. They started rounding them up. China welded people's doors shut. And in America, we let it go a long ways. And then people are like, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm not bending or I'm going to break. And we stood up and a lot of it stopped. I guess there's some places in New York, people tell me about you still got to wear masks and stuff. But that's another thing. Now it's like there's kind of a lull in the storm. We're like in the eye of the storm. And all these good, strong Christian people who should be standing up more, maybe myself included, all of us, sure, we're not immune. But it's like, well, I don't want to push too hard because they'll take away my Netflix. It's probably the best thing to happen to you. But when they start taking away more and more and more, there's going to be a point where it's like, we don't want to rock the boat because we have it too good. If you start taking away stuff where it's all equal, like there's no reason for them not to invade and take over. They're coming from third world countries and life is hell. So that they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. We have everything to lose, we think. If we're in Christ, we're never losing that. But all of our material possessions, we have a lot of that crap that we should probably lose anyway. But once that's taken from us, we're like, you know what? I had a good life. I don't anymore. It's time to go. And I just hope that by the time that happens to enough people, it's not too far gone. So this is like a wake-up call now, because when it gets to that point where we have nothing to lose, we could have already lost.
Amen. This is a wake-up call. I mean, if we don't wake up now, there's going to be a turning point where it's going to have to become just a bloody conflagration. I mean, just a global war, because we can still push back and stop this conquest of the world that's happening right now. I mean, 3 billion Muslims, if 99% of them are peaceful, good people, I'm sure they are, that 1% is still 30 million people who are not nice, and they want to murder you and kill you and destroy your future. So that's a pretty big army. If you got an army of 30 million people, and they have that. So, I mean, we need to wake up, people. I mean, really, it's incumbent upon Christians to fight for Christendom. Fight as hard as they're fighting for their faith. What is wrong with us? We're going to let them just rape your daughters and take over our country? Seriously, time to get serious. This is existential threat. They are telling you it's an existential threat. Take them at their word.
100%. And in the order of things, look, at least if you're in Christ, in 100 years, everyone we know and love is going to be dead. Then what? So if you're in Christ, great, you have eternal life, you're good. That's step one. So for all these people who are putting kind of conservatism and politics on par, or they're focusing on that. They may love Jesus, they may be saved, but they're really focusing on that first. It's not one or the other. It's like all things come from truth, right? Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So godly things in politics will come from that. So don't focus too much just on politics, because we absolutely see salvation is not in politics. So even if you're on the conservative side that loves God, focus on that. So focus on the top, which is Jesus, and then everything will come through that. So it will filter down through politics and through our daily lives. Versus if you just kind of like, well, God's great, but let's stop at politics. I mean, if there's anything, like Trump's been in office now, and man, every day is like a new nightmare. I mean, we're seeing how much I think he's like a rocket ship. Like there's some things like the vaccines and stuff like that I don't love, that he's still not letting go of. But by and large, he is Rocket Man since his first term. But still, you can see that even though a lot more things are getting done and it's a lot better for our country, it's primarily by executive order. All the Congress are failing. This is a repeat, right? Like we had all three branches of government first term, and absolutely it was horrible. So like the weakness or fecklessness or the bought-offness of the Republicans in leadership, it is not going to save you. So Trump's been in office like 10, 11 months now, and there's a lot done. It is so much less than what could have been if Congress would pass these laws, nuke the filibuster. And it's like all the things the Democrats are like, we shouldn't nuke the filibuster. Dude, the Democrats are going to do this day one. They've already said it. You do it, codify all these executive orders into law. And the fact that a different cover-up is like being exposed every single day. So it's like, look, there may be a lot. It's definitely a lot better than the other side won, but there is a lot left to want. So Jesus is our only hope. All politics is good for is stemming the flow and just doing as best we can in the meantime. But get God right, get with God, and then politics, just do the best we can, because it is not going to save us alone.
No, but thank God for Trump, and Trump's faith
absolutely
is a big part of this. Listen, God sends us imperfect messengers. He's not a perfect person. None of us are. We're all sinners. But if we had an army of people with his determination and his faith and his energy, his life force, I mean, we'd be unstoppable. I knew Trump's brother, Robert, and he was always just baffled. Why? He said, my brother had the greatest life. Like, everybody loved him. Now all these people, he's like, I don't know why he got into politics. He's like, but he explained how Trump really felt it was a calling. Like, if nobody else was going to do it, I got to do it. And he had the wherewithal from his resources and his just superhuman energy. Guy's 80 years old and he works harder than any of us. So he combined those things and this will that's like, I mean, I don't know how anyone else could withstand the attacks, the spiritual attacks, the legal attacks, the political attacks, the character attacks. I mean, I don't think anyone in history has gone through, other than Jesus, like the attacks that he's gone through. And like I say, he's not a perfect person, but give him a chance because nobody else is doing it.
I mean, he is without a doubt probably the most consequential president. I mean, maybe he would put some of the founding fathers and maybe Washington up there, but I mean, man, in my lifetime, absolutely, and probably like of all the presidents, he is like top tier. If we had 10 Trumps, this country would look vastly different. If we had 10 Trumps and fill up his cabinet with Trumps, we'd be good. I mean, RFK, which I was going to say this earlier, like I think Tulsi Gabbard's really good. That's someone who had a super awakening, a darling of the left, right? And when she didn't go completely rabid and radical, and it's like, hey, look, we can work with the other side. Let's get some good for the American people done. Now she's on a no-fly list. Now she's being under constant assault. RFK, like you said, darling of the left, the activist the whole time. Now he's evil for having exactly the same positions he always had. Trump, I used to watch CNN because when it was before Trump came down the golden escalator in 2015 and announced his presidency, I was watching CNN that day, and as soon as I saw that, I was instantly excited. I'm like, yes, he's running. I'm like, I'm in for Trump. I'm like, this is gonna be great. And I watched on CNN, and for about 4 to maybe 6 months, because I never watched Fox, because that was when that was whenever it was like Bush and then Obama and then Romney is running. I'm like, dude, I can't stand all these guys, Romney, McCain, like I don't want any of it. And then it was just Obama, which I did not like, but they were still kind of like the old guard. So they were complaining about Obama all the time, but I wasn't that into politics anymore. I watched CNN mostly as background stuff because I was more interested in current events like world issues and whenever there's a storm or a hurricane, or not so much political. Whenever he came down and announced, for about 4 to 6 months, I thought they did good. They just covered the news. And then there was a turn on a dime, and they like got vicious and evil. I'm like, guys, you've been covering this guy for what he actually said for like however many months. How are you now acting like it's bad? I'm like, well, clearly you're bought off. You've made deals because you thought everything he's saying was great 6 months ago when he announced. Now apparently the powers that be have got to you, or you are the powers that be. So you're switching your stance for exactly his same points he's had since I've been alive. I'm like, No. So then I went to Fox, and they were all happy, and then there was the Never Trumpers. I'm like, where am I going? So Infowars quickly became my kind of like daily news source, and they're like, that's fake news. You can't da da da. I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter if like Google it. I think if you check all the stuff, if you can first of all, you're gonna torture yourself, because if you want to check all their sources, if you go to any mainstream place, it's gonna be false, 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 and then when you see their citations, you're gonna see how all these places calling it false are wrong. But that means you're gonna have to take a burden on yourself and dig in, because all the mainstream fact checkers are they need you to fact check them. So since no one has time for that, I guess it's a trust me bro moment. I've watched them for a long time. Every time there's something questionable, I research, I deep dive. I'm like, oh, look at that, it's completely true. So no matter what, like I think Alex even admits, he's like, X amount of percent, like 1 or 2%, we make some stuff, we have to do retractions, but it's like almost never, because we try to vet stuff before we actually go with it, or we say this is speculative or whatever. So no matter how wrong he is, if he was wrong 90% of the time, unintentionally, which he's not, it's like 1% of the time he may say, oops, I got something wrong. But if he was wrong 90% of the time, that's still 100% better than any of the mainstream people who are intentionally wrong like 100% of the time. Like they're just feeding you trash, and if you don't check it, you're just eating trash, just like your Doritos.
Yeah, and I saw it when I worked on the campaign for RFK. I saw it at another awakening, because that was the first time I worked really on a political campaign. I prayed for that, and this, God manifested it. I wanted to be an illustrator for the RFK campaign. I didn't even know if that position existed. I prayed on it, and I got an email. Do you want to be an illustrator on the RFK Super PAC? And it just, praise God. That's how it works. And I saw the demons. I saw what they did to him, lying every day about him. And they had moles come in our campaign and to collect signatures, and they would purposely break the law to try to get him disqualified. They raised the number of ballots from 20,000 to 100,000 to try to exclude him from getting on the ballot. They had countless lawsuits and smear pieces and lies about him every day. And in New York, it's all controlled by the Democrats, so they control the courts, so nobody gets prosecuted for their crimes if you're a Democrat. And they have, they use lawfare to destroy their enemies, and then the press covers it all up or backs them up with more lies. So, I saw just how dirty and vicious they were. And by the way, he was running at that time, as a third party candidate, and the Republicans just left him alone. Trump would say something, nasty about him once in a while, but that was about it. The Democrats they are determined, they are demonic, and they are relentless. And we need to be the people who are working for Christ and Christendom and Western values of freedom and justice and equality, have to be as determined and dedicated as they are. Because if we're not, they're going to win.
Yeah, and I remember that when they finally, like you just said, like everyone's in the pocket. Like when you investigate someone's daughter is married to someone's nephew, someone's this, and they all like incestuously have these corporations and checking groups and the judiciary. It's all intertwined. So whenever they got to a point, I remember that they're like, oh, RFK can't run. Why? He just can't run. And they just blocked him from running in like a couple states. And then they tried the same thing with Bernie. They're like, Bernie, you just can't run. Except, Bernie was loyal enough to make whatever deal he made and be faithful to them. But yeah, so good people, get right with God. Stand up before you don't have any legs to stand on. Well, in closing, I said we've gone over an hour. This is great. I'd love to talk to you more and be a guest on the actual show and deal with a bunch of questions from random crazy people. It sounds like you have a lot of knowledge about Islam. We talk about a lot, but it was great to meet you. What do you have to say in, I guess, closing thoughts or comments about anything?
Well, it's great to meet you, Nate, and I'm amazed at how prolific you've been. You've been doing it 14 years. You're doing one of these a day. It's incredible. And that's what we need. We need to just put everything we have into this fight because it's existential. We need to connect with God inside of us. God's not separate from us. He's in us. We are a fractal expression of God. Jesus gave us the model how to transcend through suffering. He had the ultimate suffering. Our suffering is a path towards redemption and transcendence. And it's incumbent upon us as Christians to engage in this spiritual battle for the lives of our children and the lives of ourselves and for the future of humanity.
100%. Yes. Repent, believe the gospel. It's know who you are, know whose you are. Saved by grace through faith. That's it. Like, the battle's already won, right? So we're just kind of like doing what we can. The primary mission is share the gospel, which that's the part that's going to eternally last. So no matter if we get hit by a bus tomorrow, or this world goes on 10,000 more years, or we extinct ourselves in a year, whatever happens, the eternal soul of everyone is primary number one. Repent, believe the gospel, read the Bible. Read about Jesus, read about everything. We can answer questions. We have a lot of great knowledgeable Christians that are here that answer questions every day, and people will feel like they have an unsatisfactory answer. Look, we give you the most we can, but we're trying to take a whole book that we've read and studied for years and spit out a one-line answer that's going to satisfy you. What's going to satisfy you is God. You're going to know who he is by reading the Bible. So we're here to help. We're here to help discipleship people and usher them and things like that. But Jesus died on the cross for the sins of everyone who would believe, call on his name, repent, believe the gospel, follow him, read about that Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the New Testament, the epistles, the whole Bible. That's it. And from there, your God's, the battle's won. We're just biding our time, sharing the gospel of eternal life, and from there, everything else flows. Country, companies, business, friends, family, children, all of these things. The Bible is the ultimate book. So especially politics, stem the tide, stem the flow while we can, before it's too late. So wake up call across the board. It was great to talk to you. I knew I had definitely those categories I hit on. I didn't know it was going to go this deep. It was great. So thanks for the conversation. And I'd love to talk to you again.
Anytime, Nate. Thank you so much for the opportunity.